Thank you so much. Right, well, thank you all for coming out today. It's a pleasure to be here. So yes, today we're going to be talking a little bit about how you can build Web3 work platforms and work platforms more generally on TalentLayer, which is infrastructure and developer tools for building labor platforms. But before we get into that, I wanted to say hi and tell a little bit about me and the team. And I also wanted to learn a little bit about you because I don't really know who you are. Some of you I know, but I wanted to just get like sort of a sense of who we are so that I could try to make things more applicable for you. So this is the team. We have team members around. Woo, go TalentLayer. And we're currently in Lisbon, so we're doing an incubator program with Claros, so it's a pleasure to be here for like 3 months and get involved in the community. And we're sort of this big open source effort building interoperable tools for labor platforms to try to solve the biggest problems that we see in the labor market, which is fragmentation. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that later. So that's a little bit about us. But if anyone wants to like tell me like what you're doing or where you're from or any short intro, would love to hear. And don't make me call on my friends.
Well, okay, thank you for the good intro. Me and Roman, we are from Rarible Marketplace. We are doing our marketplace and have like many products besides the marketplace as well, like protocol and so on. So we are just want to see like how like other companies are doing, like what are the innovations and what cool features, maybe how we can cooperate or integrate with them here.
Awesome. I'm a big fan of Rarible. So maybe we could do a demographic breakdown. So how many like NFT sector people do we have here? NFT sector. All right. Okay, a little bit low on the NFT sector. What about DeFi? DeFi. Okay, perfect. I make some DeFi analogies here. What about like creative? So like design. Okay, cool. All right. Nice. Thank you guys for that. What about others? I'm sure there's also other. Today we're going to be sort of going through three different concepts in the discussion. So first we're going to talk a little bit about what is wrong in the current labor market. Then we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do as builders to give people a better solution to what's currently available. And then at the end, questions and answers, and if you guys want to get technical, then we can get technical. So, what's wrong with the labor market? It's kind of fucked. So hirers have such a hard time finding people to hire, but it's not as if people aren't seeking work. People are seeking work, and in fact, almost half of people globally are seeking work either as a full-time person or a part-time person. And there's some sort of crazy disconnect that's happening because there are enough jobs, there are enough people seeking work. And if we take a step back and look at the structure of the labor market, it's easy to see the problem. We have extreme fragmentation in the places that people are looking for work and the places that people are posting jobs. And what's interesting here is this is a liquidity issue. So this is the same sort of issue that was present in DeFi, that platform or that protocols like Uniswap were able to solve by pooling liquidity at a lower level. So instead of trading pairs with the Uniswap analogy, we have hires and workers, and these are inherently less fungible things. So it's a little bit more complicated than simply having trading pairs, but we'll get into that in a moment. So basically, just like Uniswap was able to pool liquidity and give us more effective and efficient financial markets, that's what we're trying to do with labor markets, with this low-level protocol. But what exactly is TalentLayer? That was some very high-level stuff. And how can you build with this? So, TalentLayer is a low-level protocol for basically all the back-end components that you need to build a labor marketplace. So this is identity, reviews, escrow, arbitration, and some other things as well. And what happens when you have all of this back-end stuff at a lower level is you can actually build So, for example, if you're ever driving in an Uber, oftentimes you'll see the person like flipping through multiple apps to try to find the next rider. And why are they doing that? It's because they can't find enough riders on one app alone. But what if all of a sudden, when that Uber driver is looking for the next person to pick up, those people that are appearing are actually coming in from other applications? What if it didn't matter what interface a user is using? What if it was all at a lower level? So this is what we're trying to bring to not only like gig work, but just any sort of platform like health marketplaces, task marketplaces, food delivery, etc. Yeah, so basically Legos. Okay, so how can you build stuff on TalentLayer? Well, most of the teams that are building on us are engineering their backend natively. So basically we have escrow, dispute resolution, jobs and proposals all sort of out of the box, available for teams to use. Basically the main thing that teams need to build is the front end. So this is assuming that you're building a very crypto native type platform because all of this is on-chain. So if you're trying to build something that's more mainstream audience geared, then you would want to do things like, fiat, maybe custodied accounts, stuff like that. So yeah. And it's all live right now on testnet on Polygon. So basically, we have a number of teams that are in engineering right now to go live on mainnet within the next 2 months or so. And that's also going to be after we go live on mainnet in March. As far as what you can build on TalentLayer, it's really broad. So the best fit things, or the platforms that fit best with our architecture right now are skilled freelance marketplaces. But in the future, we're going to be shipping improvements to make it so that you can really tackle any sort of labor marketplace that you could want to build. So now we're going to go through just a couple teams that are going to be launching at the same time that we launch. So we have DLance, a user-owned marketplace for developers and creatives, all crypto native and community owned. And then we have Higher Vibes. One of their team members was going to stop by. I don't know if I see them yet. So they are one of the top white labeled job board providers for Web3 projects. So they do the job boards for a number of ecosystem foundations, and what they're building is a white-labeled freelance marketplace so that ecosystem foundations can actually be able to host their own freelancing natively on their own website. And then finally, we have WorkPod, which is a auditor platform where you'd be able to find affordable and good auditors. So that was a little bit about TalentLayer. For the next section, we can take it a few directions, right? If you guys have questions, we can do that. If you guys want to chat about work in general or different problems that you've experienced, we could do that. Or we can get technical and go into some real applications of how you can use it today. So how do we want to go with it? Do we have any questions? Yeah, what's up?
Thank you for the presentation. My question is around liquidity, and it was mentioned that liquidity seems to be the problem that causes supply and demand not to meet on the jobs market. And I wonder what kind of incentivization scheme you've thought about, if any, and if you've thought about maybe bootstrapping those job pools with some kind of token design involved, because I guess part of the success of Uniswap was also related to its LP programs and the whole incentivization structure around it. So I think, without that component, I think I could see difficulties in bootstrapping, marketplaces and markets. What do you think about it?
Very good point. So there are two interesting things. So in contrast to the Uniswap example, where most of the, at least most of the platforms that I know that are building, like say interfaces with Uniswap, versus platforms that are building interfaces with TalentLayer, most of the platforms that are building interfaces with TalentLayer actually are launching their own ecosystem token to do then end user incentives. Basically, when it comes to our tokenomics, this is something that we don't have like 100% down. But one thing that we've looked at as a mechanic is allowing users to basically like stake on platforms that they think are going to be successful and then be able to like earn a share of fees that are generated off of that platform. So on one hand, this is beneficial because it's providing, you know, these users some benefit. And it's also basically a form of curation because the platforms that receive a lot of people staking on their behalf then would, you know, be seen as more reliable. And those users would only want to put money on platforms that they think are going to generate good fees for them. Therefore, they would be choosing the good ones that are serving their clients well. But yeah, I mean, the short answer is we don't have it all figured out, but we're thinking about some things. Thank you.
How does the integration with Claros look like?
Yes, so Claros is currently on Ethereum, so it's one of our options for dispute resolution. We are first going live on Polygon, so it will not be supported there. On Polygon, we will have something called platform managed dispute resolution, so that's basically very similar to how dispute resolution is handled in current freelance marketplaces, which is it's just sort of managed by the platform itself, usually by customer support agents. So this is the current option on Polygon. Claros is going to be deploying to other chains eventually, so we hope to support those other chains that they're on as we can. But in general, from a technical standpoint, how it works is, so Claros is a decentralized arbitration protocol, so think of it like decentralized courts. So it's actually pretty cool because you basically send them a case. So for example, say you hire me and I just do a horrible job, but I think I did a great job. Well, you can go and take it to dispute, saying I don't want to pay you, or I could take it to dispute. And we basically send like a package of information, so the evidence of the case, and that is assigned to jurors in sort of a randomized way, and then those jurors assess the case, and they give us back a result. So yeah, just very similar to nation-state court systems. Like we wish that they were on more chains. We would totally support them if they were on more chains, but yeah. Yeah, so we do have our own escrow. So initially we actually forked Claros escrow, and then we more recently did like a bunch of alterations on it. So if you want, someone could give a more technical answer.
So yeah, just the difference between the escrow is that ours is completely integrated with all the other modules that we have, so the identity and the reputation that you got then. So it's use the basic escrow that Claros can provide, integrating with TalentLayer and so powered by other feature and giving more interoperability on all these features basically. That's it.
Another note on the escrows, so different types of work platforms handle money in very different ways. And this is why we say right now, with the current implementation, it makes the most sense for your average freelance marketplace type thing to integrate, because freelance marketplaces handle escrow where you pay the escrow up, or you pay money into escrow up front, and then it can be released like over time in the form of milestones or hourly payments or whatnot. But you know, some platforms do not have the full amount of escrow expected when you're initially creating a job. So for every or for some new types of platforms that we would want to expand, if there's like a new market that we want to serve, then we would basically need more types of escrow, each of those sort of tailored to the unique needs of that demographic.
I think it's also kind of ties to the question of reputation. Is this also something that you're trying to solve, or do you expect applications or like platforms on top of yours to solve this?
Well, I don't think anyone can solve reputation per se. I also don't really think that reputation's a problem, therefore it doesn't need to be solved. So the way that we handle reputation is since we're this low data layer, just want to provide marketplaces as much raw information as we can. So that's like the actual text of reviews, whether or not something went to dispute, how many jobs have been completed, and all of this is just open and on-chain. So the idea is they take in this information and then they make their own assumptions. Like some marketplaces are going to weight certain things higher than others, and that will impact, how they display people in search or how they calculate, the rating score or however the marketplace wants to visualize it. And also there's of course, hundreds of different like identity solutions that are already out there, whether we're talking about like, Lens handles or ENS or like Gitcoin Passport. So like we don't see ourselves as some sort of standalone reputation thing. It's like we need to be composable with all of those other reputation systems out there, because more so from like a philosophical standpoint, like we don't think that there's ever going to be one identity. So yeah.
Like, is there an option for privacy on your platform? For example, I want to place like my position, but don't want to reveal my identity. And for example, payment will be done with the help of crypto. Like Silk Road was used this a long time ago.
So basically the question is, do you have to reveal your identity to use the protocol? So think of TalentLayer as a pseudonymous. So of course, like you do have an identity because you basically have this soul-bound NFT that represents you, but it's just a unique identifier, right? Like it's not like that's a KYC'd identity. So we do not have any sort of user identification like KYC or even just any personal identifiable information. We don't touch that. That's if a platform wants to have that, then they have that. At the protocol level, anyone can go and create an identity and use that identity to interact with other people on the protocol. But if we're talking about a specific marketplace, like maybe they'll choose to KYC people and only allow people in a specific country or like whatever. So I mean, for the time being, like we do sort of have to moderate things that are happening. So our way of doing that is permissioning what platforms can build on us. So yeah, so as of right now, we sort of have a white list of platforms that are okay to build on TalentLayer. So that way we do know that they're going to be, only allowing the, legally good type of stuff. But in the long run, like it is a completely open protocol and we can't really control it. So we'll do what we can while we can.
How do you deal with civil attacks?
Very good point. So we're actually currently doing a attackathon. So an attackathon is where we ask our community to just attack our smart contracts. So we've been thinking a lot about Sybil attacks recently. It's a really complicated issue, and that issue gets more complicated when you open up the protocol fully, as in like, when there's not going to be a whitelist for platforms and when it's going to be completely permissionless. So one of our advisors put it this way: there's always going to be spam data out there, right? And if we look at like even just blockchains themselves, like, oh my gosh, like Ethereum is just bloated with spam data. But it's more so a matter of giving platforms the ability to sift through that data and figure out the signal through the noise really easily. So from our perspective, we want to be empowering them with really good tools to filter. And as far as like, garbage identities and stuff like that goes, they will exist. We can't really prevent that. We just need to be able to like filter them out easily. As far as like, other types of attacks that are more like monetary in nature. I mean, I guess those are kind of a different thing. Does that answer your question? Not quite. Wilma, do you have a better answer?
So yeah, for cyber attacks, we have different level on security. You can have some security on the smart contract side. So here we're going to try to have low incentive to do cyber attacks and to have to pay too much for what should be interesting. So for example, we prevent anyone to just spam to create fake reputation and stuff like that. So we are working like that on core mechanism to prevent that on the core level. But also we start building some tools for the marketplace to prevent this kind of spamming and prevent things display on the front end. Because if you want to spam, or if you want to cyber attack, and if it's not displayed at the end, that will worth nothing. So we're providing also this kind of tools on top on the indexer level. So the indexer for all is the graph. And so we are providing tools on top on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Kirsten, for this great presentation.